Hello, I am Xarkun. This is World of Warships Legends. Got another video for you today in the Tier 7 Premium Italian battleship Roma. Paolo di Revel on the screen here. He is our commander, and we are going to be on Sea of Fortune Domination Mode game in the Roma. This video, unlike my previous video featuring the Roma, is going to be less about the ship itself, probably, and more about the positioning of this particular ship in this particular game, and the positioning of battleships generally. So, I think a lot of battleship players probably like to sit as far back as possible. At least that's what I see. You see in probably every game at least one battleship, probably a battleship along the lines of the Iowa or the Richelieu or Jean Bart, sitting toward the back of the map, not too far away from their spawn, looking down the scope and taking shots at other enemy battleships, or at other battleships on the enemy team, doing the exact same thing. This is not effective. You have to think, what are you good at in a battleship, and what is most satisfying when you're playing a battleship? Well, what you're good at is delivering big knockout punches to enemy ships, specifically enemy battleships and enemy cruisers. And I don't know about you, but when I'm playing a battleship, that's what I like. That's what I find most satisfying. That is why battleships remain my favorite class in the game. Nevertheless, they are somewhat difficult to play, and the current meta of the game isn't necessarily friendly to pushing battleships. But there are some tools that you have at your disposal that can make pushing in a battleship easier. And there are very good reasons to push, and you can reap some very nice rewards if you do it right. And this game, I think, is going to be a decent demonstration of how to do it right. Right now, as you can see, we're pushing up. We were using that island that we just came around as cover and concealment. The enemy did not know we were approaching from where we approached, and us getting closer to this Alpha Cap, along with the friendly destroyer, who I believe is a Lightning, was enough to at least scare that enemy destroyer, the Tashkent, away. Now, you can see the battleships out there toward our spawn. They haven't moved very much. At the north center of the map, there's 3 of them. They are moving forward now. I believe they've probably been spotted for quite a while, and we've got the enemy team moving toward them since they are stationary targets. We, on the other hand, are moving toward the enemy spawn, still using these islands as both cover and concealment, avoiding the Tashkent's slow torpedoes. Here we're coming to a gap between these 2 islands that we would like to navigate correctly, so we slow down on the throttle here, and we engage in a turn. One thing that I feel like I didn't harp on too much in the review of the Roma is how nicely maneuverable this ship is. Again, it does have an 810 meter turning circle radius, which is quite good for a battleship. And here you see that we are able to squeeze through this relatively narrow gap without even hitting an island and slowing down our progress too much. That's going to allow us to continue on our charge toward the enemy's flank. And now we have pushed up enough that we are going to have access to a lot of broadsides here. Our teammates, on the other hand, still pretty stationary, still sort of up there in the center of the map, north of the Bravo Cap, not having done much. Again, that is not a very effective strategy in a battleship. And even though it feels like it's more of a safe strategy, since you aren't going forward and theoretically aren't going to be exposing yourself to the torpedo threats, at least not as much as... I mean, they have to come to you. You're not coming toward them. So it might seem safer at first glance, and it might be safer. It might keep you alive to the end of the battle, but if the enemy team is going to be moving around, pushing forward, entering the caps as they are, they've secured Bravo, they're trying to secure Charlie, then what you're doing is not going to be effective. What you want to do is not what our 3 teammates are doing up there. You see there are 3 battleships there. They're essentially within the same 2 or 3 squares on the grid. That means all of the enemy battleships are going to be able to angle at all of the friendly battleships, and if the enemy battleships spread out, the friendlies are all in one place. The friendlies will not be able to angle against them, and that seems like what the enemy is trying to do here. We, on the other hand, with this friendly battleship over here in front of us, are attempting to counter that by doing the same thing. We're coming around on the enemy's flank. We are going to put ourselves in positions where we have access to their broadsides, and we're doing it with the aid of island cover. Now, this isn't the only map you can do this kind of thing on. There are several maps that offer great island cover that battleships can make use out of. So, next time you're on Facebook and you see somebody complaining about camping cruisers sitting behind islands, melting them down into oblivion, I've seen that a lot, and I've seen those battleship players also say that there should be no islands. If that's your idea of how to best play a battleship, you might want to work on trying to get that out of your system, because the islands are just as valuable to you as they are to the cruisers who are using them to melt you down. They can help you get into positions like the one we're in now, where we essentially have access to the broadside of all of the enemy ships except for the 2 that have found cover behind the islands in front of us. So we're able to take a shot at this Bismarck, and we do get a decent salvo on him for about 10,000 damage. Meanwhile, we've got an enemy Gneisenau out there. He's going to be a little bit trickier to hit given our limited range, but it does look like he's going to turn into it, so we are going to take a pot shot at him. If we weren't in the Roma and we were in something more accurate with longer range, this kind of pushing up would be effective for getting nice shots on that Gneisenau out there. Unfortunately, we don't get that nice of a shot, but we've still got this Bismarck here, and now, 10 kilometers away, flat broadside to us, we pretty much got him dead to rights. He is angled against the friendly ships there, which means he cannot angle against me and the battleship that is also pushing up next to me. So we're able to take advantage of that and hit him really hard for 6k. I think that might be Artisan's Touch there working out for us well, in that we're aiming at the thickest part of the ship, right at the waterline. The shells are going through the armor. The Roma does seem to have excellent shell velocity and excellent shell penetration, even if it's not the most accurate. That penetration can work against you, along with Artisan's Touch, and you can see that manifest itself in the form of over-penetrations. But when you're aiming at the right part of the ship, and you do get nice accuracy, then the results are quite satisfying. Enemy New Mexico out there, by the way. Let me just say something I've said many times before. If you're going to pick a Tier 5 ship, or any tier ship that's not a Tier 7, do not, when you're playing in a division, go into a game with a ship of a higher tier than you. If you take out a Tier 5 ship like the New Mexico with a Tier 6 division mate, then it is pretty likely that you're going to be up-tiered and find yourself in a Tier 7 game, which is not where you want to be in a New Mexico, and frankly, your team probably isn't going to benefit a whole lot from your presence in the game. We've got an enemy Richelieu coming around the corner now. One of the flanking battleships that joined us on our push seems to have scared him out from behind his island, giving us an opportunity to pump AP shells right into his broadside, and we do end up taking out one of his turrets permanently. So the Richelieu here is running the gauntlet. He's charging straight at the friendly Jean Bart. Basically, he knows he's dead. This is a suicide run. He's down to only 50% firepower. We're going to take one last shot at him, maybe another once this other turret reloads, but it's not going to matter. He's already decided what he's going to do. He's going to ram the friendly Jean Bart, and both of them are going to go down. And actually, that wasn't the friendly battleship that chased him out of his hidey hole. That was the friendly destroyer. We are now the final battleship left on our team, and we have a nice advantage in the form of 3 destroyers supporting us versus 3 enemy battleships, one of whom is the Bismarck we hit earlier for a lot of damage. He has come out, decided to make it easy for us to hit him again. Unfortunately, RNG is not really complying with our request to punish him, and we aren't getting the best damage ever, but he turns away right into a salvo of torpedoes from the friendly Lightning, so down he goes. Now that just leaves the Gneisenau and the New Mexico. So we're going to take one shot at the Gneisenau there with the front guns, and then we're going to give this New Mexico a little bit of unwanted attention here with the rear turret. We aim a little bit high, and we do get the Citadel as the shells, I think, kind of fall shorter than where I thought they would and penetrate at the waterline. Follow-up shot, a lot less spectacular with 2 over-penetrations and a single penetration which appeared to do no damage, probably because it hit a turret and got eaten by that. But once again, the rear guns come through for a much better result. Now the Gneisenau, however, is turning into a torpedo run, making it very, very obvious that that's what he's doing. So we simply change course after he turns into the torpedo run, and by the time we spot the torpedoes, we should have already dodged them. And in fact, that is exactly what happens. The torpedoes sail harmlessly by, and now we are hopefully going to be able to take out this Gneisenau. But unfortunately for us, the Gneisenau is a very maneuverable ship, and he's flipping around to get the torpedoes off on the other side of his ship, which means because I'm so close to him, I am probably dead. Or am I? I can't really explain what happens here. I feel like this Gneisenau has a good poker face, because I don't think he had torpedoes. If he had torpedoes available, I would not have been able to ram him. But I did, and now only the enemy New Mexico is left versus 3 destroyers, which, I don't know about you, but maybe, if not poetic justice, at least a nice harsh lesson in the realities of being up-tiered in a failed division, if you want to call it that. Those torpedoes from, I think, the Asashio are going to take him out and end the game. But hopefully this gave you an idea of how pushing up in a battleship and creating crossfires is a useful thing, and how effective it can be. We finished the game with 184,000 damage done, and we're top of the leaderboard here. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up, and consider subscribing if you haven't already done that. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.